in previous class we discussed about how to create a class and how to create an object and how to write methods in the class and how to invoke those methods. These we discussed in the previous classes. Uh, then today we are going to discuss about method overloading. Method overloading. Yeah, method overloading means in a single class. In a single class, the methods have same name. Methods have same name with different types of arguments. Different types of arguments or different number of arguments. Different number of arguments. Okay. So already we know. So what is so method? Nothing but it is a block of code. Method nothing but it is a block of code. So what the method contains? So for example, see here access specifiers, public and a return type, some void, and we can write some method display. This is the method signature. In that we write some method block. So with the open brace and close brace. This is known as a method. So within this open brace and close brace, we write some code. Right now here what we are saying, in a single class these methods, every method in the Java we must write within the class. So in a single class the methods means here number of methods, many number of methods we can write. So these methods have the same name with the different types of arguments or different number of arguments. See here the name means this is the name display, and arguments means we write within the parenthesis. This we known as parameters. Okay, these parameters are different, but his method name is same. What about this? This is the return type. Return type cannot involve into the method overloading. That means it can be anything. Again, it doesn't decide the overloading. And this is modifier. So modifier also same thing. I like return type. So modifier also cannot decide this method overloading. Method overloading means here the same name with different types of arguments. For example, we have this method. This method we want to overload. Okay, this method we want to overload in a single class. How we can write it? For example, we see class. So method overloading demo. Method overloading, yeah, that is the class name. We write a method. This is a public void display. So in this we can write a system.out.println. This is a method without parameters. See, method without parameters. So what happened here? So this display method, the name is the display method. It does not have any parameters. That means number of parameters is 0. Number of arguments are 0. Then I want to write one more method with the same name. Okay, same name, public int, return type anything. It may be change. Okay, right, display. Here I can write int roll number. Into roll number, that roll I am writing here. See, so this can return that roll number. I write here return roll. Then I want to write one more display, public. Now I can write here string display. Here it returns a string, so it accepts some variable, the string name comma int roll. Yeah. Now it returns a string because we are writing the return type is a string. So we write here return name plus roll. Right here, name and roll number. This both it is returning as a string type. Okay, so even we can write all void also. Then there is a method. This is, so see here, this is a class, a single class. Within the single class we are writing the three methods. The three methods have the same name: display, display, display. What is the difference here? The difference here, it does not have any parameters. Does not have any parameters. These have only one parameter, that is the int type. Here it contains two parameters. Two parameters. One is a string type, another one is a int type. So different in the parameters type and different in the number of parameters. This is display. So there is a return type, anything maybe. So it is not involving into the method overloading. You want to write, you can write void, here also void, here also void. Okay, no problem. But in method overloading, the number of parameters and types of parameters must be different, and this name is compulsory same. Okay, that is. Yeah, then next we will see one more example for the class. We can write a class calci. Now I want to write here public void add int a comma int b. So two parameters I am using here. Two parameters are int type only. Okay, now I can add these int c. Then c is equal to a plus b. A plus b. I think you are understanding very easily. This is system.out.println. Okay, now we can print c. Sum is c. Is over. Look, first method is over. Now I want to write one more method in a method overloading. For example, if I want to add two float values. So here we are taking two integer values, but I want to add two float values. Then we have to that means the method should accept the float values. At that time we should write like this: add float a comma float b, a comma float b, then float c. I can write here c is equal to a plus b. Now I want to print sop system.out.println. Then now we write sum is plus c. Now one more is there. I want to add three integer values. Then we write one more method with three integers, public void. Okay, if you want to return, you can write an integer also, but I want to print here itself, so that's why I'm writing here void only for all. Okay, right, add int a comma int b comma int c. Now here we write int d is equal to a plus b plus c. Now we can print SOP. The sum is plus d. This is, in this class, if you observe, three methods are there. The first method is add. It takes two parameters which are integer type. Here this method has add, same name, add. So this method accepts two float values, and here again method name is add. So this method accepts three integer values. That means the first method two integer values accepting, the last method is accepting three integer values. Number of arguments are different, but even first method and last method having the same type, but the number of arguments are different. Okay, first method and second method add, but here number of arguments are different. Now, number of arguments are same, but here type of arguments are different. That means in method overloading we can write same method name, but the number of arguments or type of arguments are different. Okay, yeah, this is the all these methods must be write in a single class only. Okay, this is known as a method overloading. So here that means this is completely we are writing in a separate class. So these class providing uh, adding two float values or adding two integer values or adding three integer values. Okay, but we can call using the method name add only. Okay, now we will check it. Yeah, right. We will check it while executing on a program. Just same thing, the same programs we can write in a class. First I will save this. Same methods, I can make it a copy and paste. We can save the time. But what happened here? Method overloading the class. In this class we are writing here SOP will not work in the just I wrote like that, but we should write complete system dot len. Okay, so yeah, this is the returning the roll number, this is the returning the string values. Now this is a class, we can save this. Method overloading dot java. Up I am saving this method overloading dot java. So we can take one more class main. Class main public static void main string args. So now we want to access those methods in whatever we wrote in the method overloading class. Those methods we want to access. That means we have to create the object for method overloading. Method overloading mo is equal to new method overloading. So this is the creating the object for that class. Okay, then now we want to ask the methods to display something. So whatever mo in that method overloading class, we have a method that is a display. Okay, now this display method can display whatever in it. Again, so whatever in it means, so what it contains, see here, method overloading, what it contains, the display method will execute. In that method without params will come as a output. Okay, while executing this. So now we can save this also. Main.java, we can execute. So cd desktop java c. First we need to compile method overloading.java. If any errors is display, otherwise success. Okay, then next java c main. We have main class also, main.java. Yeah, over. Now which method we should which class we should execute? This method overloading class or main class? See, method overloading class does not have any main method. Okay, now so method overloading, we save this here. This class, it just it contains only the three methods. These methods are overloaded methods, but it does not have any main method. So these methods are accessing from the main class. That main class contains public static void main. That means execution starts from here. Then it creates the object for that method overloading class, and then it calls that method. Yeah, see, that means we have to execute main java main dot class, remove the dot class. Then see here, so what we got, method without params. Method without params, see, this method is executed because it does not have any parameters. While we are calling it, so we are not using any parameters. Now I want to use the parameter. I want to pass, see here, this method I want to execute. I don't want to execute this method, I want to execute this method. Then we need to pass just some integer value, some roll number. If you pass, then you can get it. See, for example, I can pass here 1 to 1, 1 to 1, it is an integer. That's the rule number we are passing. Okay, now we can save this here, and just we did modifications in main, so that's why we have to recompile that main only. File it, Java main. Now yeah, what happened here? Java main, we are not getting here nothing. Why? Because see in this method is executing. While executing this method is returning that roll number. So roll number, which type it is? Integer type. This returned roll number we need to catch main. So we can write here int some n is equal to this is. So we have to print here system out dot println uh, roll number is plus n. Okay, now yeah, so where we did modifications in main, so recompile that main. Java C main dot compilation over. Now execute Java main. Now roll number is 121. That means when we are calling using the display method, the in overloaded display method is executed. Means it accepts that roll number and it is returning that roll number. Yeah, then next I want to invoke this method. That means it takes a name and a roll number. It returns a name and roll number converting as a string. It is returning string type. That means in a main we can catch a string. Uh, some result, result or returned value, we can write returned value. So how to call that? mo dot display. So we need to pass first name. What is the name here? bsc mpc something string, comma roll number 123. Okay. Now we have to print that returned value system out dot println. The returned value, write a returned value. Returned value is a variable that we are printing. Right, now see here we are calling a one argument, integer type argument, and also we are calling two arguments. One is a string and another is a integer argument type display methods. First display method is calling 121. That means it is calling this one argument display method, and second time we are calling with two arguments. Then now it calls two arguments method. That means it returns this one. Okay, right. So now we can execute this. Compile. We made changes in the main, so we have to compile the main and execute this. Roll number is, I think we did not save. Compile it. Roll number is 121. That means the method, which method is called? This method is called and return roll number. Okay, the next bsc mpc and 123. So this name we passed as the bsc mpc, and then a roll number we are passing. That means this method is executed. So this is a in a single class. In a single class we are writing three methods. These three methods having same name, but different in arguments. Now we will check another one also. What we take that? So this close. Right, here we are taking calc. So this calc contains three methods: add, and first method contains First method accepting two arguments in integer type, second method accepting two methods of float type, and a third method accepting three arguments integer type. Okay, so that means there are different in argument type. Now we can execute this also by taking out one more. In that we write here system dot out dot n. Even system dot out dot println. Next here also system dot out dot println. Just we can save this with calc dot java. So this class does not contain main method, so we have to create a main method that we can take in another class. Class main calc. Now in this we write public static void main. This we have to create the object for calc. Calc c is equal to new calc. Object creation is over. We have to call these methods. So see which method is executing which method call, that you need to understand. For example, c dot, c means a calc object. C dot add, I am passing here 12 comma 13. Now which method is executing, you need to understand. And then at this time c dot add, again I am writing, but at this time I am passing that 5.4 f comma 6.5 4 f. This time which method is calling, c dot add, then we can pass 6 comma 7 comma 8. Yes, see three methods we are calling with 3 times. Just I am calling them because it is not returning these 3 methods are not returning anything. So just we are passing the parameters. See first method calling is a binding with the first method which accepts 2 integers. Then second method is binding with the second method. It accepts only float values. It accepts the float values. Then next third method calling binded with the third method which accepts 3 integer values. Okay, that is. So now what is happening when we are compiling, then the compiler knows how to, which method is binding to which method definition, which method calling is binding to which method definition. That means it is understanding easily. Then now we can save this dot java. We can compile this java c. First we have to compile calc dot java, right? Java c main calc dot java, right? Now which class we should execute, calc or main calc? Main calc we should execute because it contains the main method. So java main calc. Here while we are calling add 12 comma 13, the sum is 25. Add 5.4 comma 6.54, see here 11.94. Yeah, the next one, this 6 plus 7 plus 8, the sum is 21. This is the method overloading. So how to write the method overloading in a single class? Okay, right. what we are discussing, the method overloading means it contains the same name with a different types of arguments or different number of arguments. So here we need to remember that return type does not involve doesn't involve in method overloading. But method contains the return type, but it does not decide that method overloading. Yeah, the next one, this method overloading, we already saw that while compiling, the compiler knows which method call is binded with which method definition. That means at the compile time, while compiling, it is the compiler is understanding which method call is binded with the which method definition. So we can call it as a compile time polymorphism. Okay, so that means the method call binds with the method definition at a compile time. So we call it as a compile time polymorphism. That means same method call performing different actions. If you pass two integer values, it is giving you the result. Or you are giving three integer values, it is giving the result. That means it is only method call is same, add, but it is performing different actions. So we can call it as a polymorphism. But method overloading is a compile time polymorphism. It is also known as static polymorphism. Static polymorphism. Okay, yeah, this is. So these points you have to remember about method overloading. It's enough today. Yeah, the next topic is Java. Our topic is constructors in Java. Okay. Constructor means it is a block of code, but does not have return type. So constructor has same name as a class name. Constructor also has modifiers or access specifiers. So these, why do we use these constructors? First, how to write the constructor, we see using these 3 points. See, constructor means it is a block of code like a method is a block of code, constructor is also a block of code, but here constructor does not have the return type. So without return type, if you write the method, then that may be the constructor. But here one more rule is constructor has the same name as a class name. So whatever the class name we are writing, the same name we have to use as a constructor name. Okay, the next constructor also has a modifiers. That means we are using the public, private, these modifiers, so we can use for these constructors also. Okay, so mostly we can use these 3 points to write the constructor. So now we can see the some, we will go for depth. Yeah, the next we write here class, our calc class. In this, the class name is this is, see what these 3 points are telling, we can use the modifiers. Just I can use the modifier public, but it does not have uh, does not uh, does not have return type, does not have return type, so don't write the return type. Then next, after return type we should write the name of the name means here same name as the class name. What is the class name here? calc. So we have to write here also calc. Then parenthesis, the parenthesis may contain, may not contain the parameters. Okay, now here we write a block of code. This is known as a constructor. Okay, now here this, in this I didn't write any statements, but we can write the any statement, executable statements, any executable statements, so we can write this. Okay, this is known as a constructor. Okay, so in Java, if we don't write, if we didn't write constructors, then compiler insert default constructor. We are not writing a constructor, that means in a previous example, so we didn't write the constructors. If we are not writing the constructors, means the compiler can insert that constructor. Compiler can insert the constructor into the class. That constructor like this. That means it does not contain any statements. It does not contain any parameters. Like this, a constructor will be inserted by the compiler into the class if we are not writing the constructors. So, but we can also write the constructor. Why should we use the constructor? In Java, constructors are used to initialize the variables, class variables. Initialize the member variables, or initialize the object variables. Initialize the member variables or object variables. Now we see how to initialize the values, how to initialize the variables in a constructor. Right, we can take one more example. Class student class, we take class student. Next, how to write the constructor for the student class? Here we take a public student, but this student contains some variables. Yeah, those variables we can take int roll number, comma string name. So these variables we want to initialize. Then here we can write r string what is happening here. We are taking the student. The student contains two variables. First variable is roll number, second variable is name. This is known as the state. This state we want to initialize here. That means this constructor student name class name is the student here. constructor name is also student. That means this is known as a constructor. This constructor can initialize R. That means this R is initializing to roll number. Next, name is equal to n. That means the n is initializing, n is assigned to name. Okay, now right, I can close this. The values are initialized. Okay, this is is known as the initialize the values, the starting values are assigned to this. Okay, this is constructors are used to initialize the member variables. Okay, now how to execute this constructor, how to call this constructor, how to call this constructor, that we write a statement. Constructors are invoked while creating the object. While creating the object, that means the programmer is not responsible to call externally the constructor. While creating the object, automatically the constructor can be invoked, and if any values are there, those values will be initialized to the variables. Okay, that this is so while creating the object, then the constructor will be invoked and it assigns the values. Okay, this we will see one example for this. For example, we see student class is there. For this student class, we want to invoke this constructor. How to write? Just create an object. How to create object? Class name student s1 is equal new student. So pass two arguments. Again, here pass two arguments, int string. First one is int 111, comma, then next name, that is n, that Raju. Right. That means this 111 will come to R, then Raju will come to n. Then what happen next? This R will be assigned to roll number, then n will be assigned to name. So here when we are calling like this, that means we are creating some instance. While creating the instance or object, then this constructor will be invoked. While invoking this constructor, these values, that means arguments, these arguments are assigned to these parameters. These parameters again assigned to these member variables. Again, these we call as a object variables. Okay, if you create a one more object, s2 is equal to new student 112, comma, here Satish. Right, like this. Now what happened? So it creates a one more object with different values. One more object with different values. Now the roll number is 112. Next, the name is Satish. That means here two objects are exist. These two objects contains their own state. Their own state. That means the first state means first object contains the roll number is this is, and Raju. That means this is the Raju object. Okay. The next one is a Satish object. These two students are exist. These two students are exist. That means two objects are exist with this class. That means so for a single class we can write a different object. So this we will see in an example. We can take a notepad. We can take a same class. This is some format. So values are assigned or not, that to know that, just we can write a one more method, public void student. When I call that get student, then it can display those assigned details. System dot println. First one is a roll number. Roll number is plus ROLL, roll. System dot out dot println. Next, student name is plus name. So now this student class contains one method, only one method, because it contains the return type. This is known as a constructor. What this constructor will do, it initialize the values. Okay, then this get student method can give the values. Okay, now we can take one more class. We save this first, student.java. Then now we can take one more class, another notepad. This is a student main. Just we write here class student main, public static void main string args. First, what should we do? We have to create the object for this class, student class. When we create the object, then this student constructor will be invoked. See, here we write, just we are creating the object. Student S1 is equal to new student. Yeah. This new student contains a roll number and a name. The roll number is 111, comma, name is Raju we are giving. Now we can create a, we can call that s1 dot get student. It displays those. If the values are initialized, then only it will display. Otherwise, it not. Then now we can create a one more object. Student s2 is equal to new student. What that new student contains? 112 comma. Here we write a Satish. Then call s2 dot get student. That's a second object. Student method. See here, student main class contains the main method. In that main method, we are creating two objects of this class. Two objects of this class. While creating the object, this constructor is invoked and values are initialized. That means each object initialized to its own values. Okay. The first object with these values, second object with these values. That's okay. Now we can save this also, this class also. .java. So we can compile these two classes. C student .java. Some error is there. Public C missed. Where here? Save this again. Is there any? Here return type required get student. So here public get student. So we are writing void, no problem, no need. Successfully compiled. Next Java student main. Student main.java. here Java C. See all these errors you should remember. Java C student main.java. Okay, compile success. Then student main. So we should execute this one. It's two objects. Roll number 111. Student name is Raju. These two came from S1 object. S1 object. Then next roll number is 112. Student name is Sadish. This came from this method. That means each object contains their own state. So when we are creating the constructor, these constructors are invoked while creating the object only. Okay, this we discussed. The constructors are invoked while creating the object. We can create the object like this. This is. So then now we see types of constructors. Types of constructors. Right. We have three types of constructors. Java provides three types of constructors. Java provides three types of constructor. First one, default constructor. Default constructor. Second one, no arg constructor. Third one, parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. Okay, so one by one we see. Default constructor. Default constructor, that means it does not have any arguments and does not have the body. No arguments and no body. No arguments and no body. That means it does not have any parameters. So for the student class, what is the default constructor? For the student class, the default constructor is example like this: public student. Yeah, this is. It does not have any parameters, any arguments. It does not have any body. That means no statements in the body. This is a default constructor. Okay. So if we don't write any constructor in a class, then compiler provides this default constructor. Default constructor. Okay, this is about the default constructor. Default constructor nothing but no arguments, no body. Okay, now, but we can write the default constructor. If we are not writing the default constructor or any other constructors, then compiler can provide this default constructor. If you are providing any type of constructor, that means if the programmer wrote any type of constructor, then compiler cannot provide a default constructor. Okay, so if we are not, if you are not writing any constructor, then only compiler can provide, otherwise can't. Okay, yeah, the next one is no argue constructor. No argue constructor means it has the body but don't have any arguments. Okay, now these don't receive don't receive any arguments but has a body, that means in a default constructor it does not have the body. Okay, now but here the same example we see here. Here it does not have any parameters, but it contains the body. Okay, just we can format it like this. Contains the body, so it contains statements. Any statements, executable statements. Okay, it contains the executable statements. This is known as a no arg constructor. The constructor which does not have any arguments but have the body. Okay, now that is known as no arg constructor. Okay, yeah, the next one is parameterized constructor. That means it receives the it receive it receives the arguments or parameters and has the body. Okay, now mostly it initialize values dynamically. That means at runtime, we call it runtime. While running also it can assign the values. Okay, so this we can see the same example with this. The statement contains the statements and also it contains parameters. Thus we write r comma string contains the parameters and also it contains the body. These are three types of constructors we can write. Okay, this in the previous class, in the student class, we have this is which type of constructor this is. Which type of constructor this is. This is a parameterized constructor. It contains the body and also it contains the parameters. Can we write a default constructor and no arg constructor? Yes, we can write in this default constructor and also no arg constructor. See here we wrote here first we will discuss one thing that is a student class contains one constructor, then compiler does not provide the default constructor. Now see here public student, here we write a system dot out dot println. So yeah, which type of constructor this is? This is no arg constructor. Now we are writing the body no arg constructor. No arg constructor. Okay, so two constructors we wrote. First constructor is no arg constructor but have the body. Second constructor is parameterized constructor. The same thing. Just we can save this and go for main. In this main, how we are creating the object with two arguments by passing two arguments. Okay, now which constructor will be invoked here? Constructor will be invoked. Okay, now see here this constructor does not receiving any parameters, so it is telling that I don't want any parameters, but here we are passing the parameters, so that's why here parameterized constructor receiving the parameters, so it will tell yes give me the parameters, so it is passing the parameters, then it accepts those. Okay, now so this second also same thing, okay, right. So here this, why do we use this constructor? To initialize the default values. Okay, now default this no arg constructor can assign the default values. So what is first? Roll number. Roll number is equal to the default roll number is, I can take here 0. String name default name is just I can write here no name. Okay, now no name or null. That is initializing these values. Okay, right. Now in a student class we can call this as a without passing parameters, without parameters. Now s1 dot get student, this by passing the parameters with this. Okay, now when we are calling, when we are creating object like this, then no arg constructor will invoke, no arg constructor will invoke and initialize the default values. Yeah, the next here 112 and Satish, these are passing while running. You know, when we are executing this, these two values will be passed. These two values will be passed to uh, which constructor? This constructor. Now this constructor can assign these values. Okay, now this constructor can assign these values. So at runtime the values are assigned. Okay, now we can execute this also. Save this and compile again. Both we have to compile. Okay, so which one we have to execute? Student main, Java student main. See, this is no arg constructor. First no arg constructor is executed. No arg constructor is executed. In this no arg constructor the values are initialized and then it giving this is no arg constructor output, the first line. Then next we called s1 dot get student, then get student roll number is equal to r. So what is the roll number here? 0. Then it is printing. The name is, this is for s1 student, these are the default values. For s2 while running the values are passed here and assigned to role and name. Then it is giving that 112 and Satish. That means here we can use two or more constructor within the same class. When we are using these two or more constructors, then we must show the difference in the parameters list. That means it does not have any parameters, 0 number of parameters. Here 2 number parameters and we can write 3 parameters, 4 parameters, and type of parameters may be different, number of parameters may be different. Then what we can call it is, just we discussed method overloading. Same name, different types of parameters or different number of parameters. Here also same thing. Here same constructor name is same, constructor name is same, but number of arguments different. This is 0 number of arguments, here 2 arguments, or the type of arguments also may be changed. Okay, now this is known as a constructor overloading. Okay, constructor overloading. So we can perform constructor overloading. Okay, so just we saw the example that we can perform the constructor overloading. That means it shows the difference in arguments list. Arguments list, nothing but number of arguments, or type of arguments. Number of arguments or type of arguments. Yeah, this is a constructor overloading. So that means using the constructor overloading also we can perform a polymorphism. Using the constructor overloading it can perform polymorphism. Okay, using these constructors overloading Java performs polymorphism. This is the thing in constructors. Okay, in today's class what we discussed, first one is the method overloading. Method overloading nothing but same name but different in the type of arguments or number of arguments. Then next we discussed about the constructors in the Java. Constructor nothing but the class name and the constructor name must be same. The constructor can be defined as like a method without a return type. Okay, Yeah, then next we have three types of constructors. First one is a default constructor. Second one is a no arg constructor. Third one is a parameterized constructor. Okay, so these different types of constructors we can write in a same class by showing the difference in arguments list. That is known as a constructor overloading. Okay, yeah, these things we discussed in today's class. Okay, thank you.